help them on. So we all make money different ways in life, and most people don't realize that to be an entrepreneur at whatever level, you don't have to be Steve Jobs, for example. It really lends itself to a more artistic temperament. If you're somebody like, unfortunately, the millennials that I had to manage towards the end of my life, you just want to spend all your life in front of a laptop sifting through data per se. Well, you'll make a good living until some other group throws you out in your ass, such as what AI is doing to software and to supply chain people in general. This is my third recommendation I've written for a former staffer this week who got chucked on their ass because the group downsized because they believe that AI will take the or take up the responsibilities that individuals heretofore had prosecuted with diligence. Oh, well, housekeeping. This is a Morta, and unfortunately, Dale Piper, true gentleman, he doesn't put videos out anymore, really, at least none that I've seen. Um, he is the one who told me all about Morta, and this is a great pipe, and I wish I could tell you who made it. I believe it's a Slavic gentleman. I don't see any markings on it. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Let me get out. Vasil's, my grandfather. Vasil Vasilovich. Actually, it was probably, you probably spent half your morning with all the Vasiloviches that went backwards. And I actually am a Vasilovich. I'm a Fritz, but I'm a Vasilovich. Don't tell anybody. Let's see. So this was what he would walk around with. We bought it for him. So I guess we bought this in the 1970s. I think that's Bakelite, but now it's mine. It goes in the tomb with me. It would be a crowded tomb, let me tell you. Let's see. Well, let's not spill my. Oh, Jesus. Oh, can't curse yet. You know what I wanted to say, though. Oh, no, I blew this over. Stay up. Had a rough morning already. Where is the light? The light is there. I saw something. I swear I saw it. Where is it? Where did I see it? There I saw it. That says a number, I think. No. Hey, Basil, stay up there. What does that say? This is fascinating, I know. This is why you tuned in. Probably tuned in for the cat pictures. Uh, I swore I saw something. Where is it? Oh, there it is. No, it's just a number. It's like 117. Oh, well. Somebody made this. It's very good. And I have in it, which I guess I'm going to do a pour over in a little bit, my own blend, which I futzed with yesterday. I did not feel well yesterday. Uh, I can take pain. I can take a lot of pain. But when I'm mentally disoriented, that kills me because then the day is a waste by and large. I can do manual tasks. So I played with my tobaccos yesterday. So I redid my mixes and moved things around in different containers because I've worked down some. I had a very large, at one point, Balkan Supreme, and that's now regrettably less than 4 ounces. So it used to be a pound. So I put a new Balkan mix in, or moved it next to my chair here. I've had some of this in the past, you've seen, but now it's right here. It's for quick access. I like that. First thing in the morning, I find it cleans out the head, and it goes very well with coffee, Java. But uh, but I digress. So we make money in different ways, and if you're an entrepreneur, you're usually more artistic, which means you see things differently. Or, as in my case, my minor in college was, what's wrong with this picture? So I was working a gig, didn't enjoy it very much, but I picked up on something very profitable, and that was it was a small manufacturer of desserts, and I was sitting with the CFO one day, and I was doing my debrief session, which is I would go in with my notebook. I always had a notebook, and I would say, look, this session is about what it is that you're looking for, because I had been brought in basically to revamp the supply chain. What is it that you're looking for that you're not getting now? What is it that's good that you don't want me to screw up because that'll cause you pain? And what is it that you'd like that you never thought you'd get? And he said, well, I can answer the last one very easily. I said, well, go for it. He said, price stability. I said, explain that to me a little bit more. He said, as you know, there are building blocks to cake. Having come from Entenmann's, I said, oh, yeah, I know. And he said, what your guys kill me with is I do the costing, and we have to sell a program to a white table chain restaurant, let's say with 100 locations. And the program is we're going to sell them our strawberry cheesecake, amongst other things, for 12 weeks from such and such a period to such and such. And oh, I didn't show this. So this probably has bits in it that are 10 years old. It's my catch all. So I put a lot of other, you do the bag and you got like a quarter of an ounce left. So you chuck it in there, and every once in a while you turn it over and you add some base stuff to it to keep it going. So it's kind of like sourdough starter yeast, if you know about that. So I said, well, what's the problem? He said, well, your guys, they give me pricing. I do the workup, and we're making money. And then we're halfway through the program, they come back to me and they say, well, butter changed. It's 10 cents a pound higher, and based upon the percentage used, I went from making a slight profit to we're barely eking out a few pennies. I'd like stability. I'd like to know for the whole thing that I'm going to make a certain amount, because then I can predict what I should price it at to begin with. And if we can't make money at it, the salesman knows, I guess we're not selling cheesecake to these people. Now, this was a new one to me because I'd worked only for large concerns up till then, and we had the leverage to lock in pricing for a year. It was on the supplier as far as the stability issue was concerned, as the relating to the pricing. But it was a wake up call. This was a big deal. So I got on the phone with a buddy from Wells Fargo, and I said, "Look, this is my problem. What's the solution?" And he was not the Wells Fargo that you think of. He was on the trading end of things. And he said, "That's a no-brainer." He says, "You just sell insurance." I said, "Well, talk to me about that." He said, "Well, you have the cheese reporter, which is kind of the industry Bible, and you have a strike price for butter on a certain day. And then you come to us and we give you insurance so that, let's say the price of butter is $1.20 a pound. So you lock that in, you give us a VIG of 3 cents. So you report your static price as $1.23 a pound. Now, if it goes, and there's a window, so if it's anywhere within 5 cents up or down, it doesn't move, and you just have to eat it either way. So either get a slight increase or a slight decrease. So if you're the CFO, you book it at $1.28, you're golden. You're never going to be higher than $1.28. And if it makes sense to do the deal at $1.28 a pound for this key component, and you do it for the building blocks, not for everything, you go ahead and do the deal. Now, if the price goes to, let's say, $1.40 a pound, which it can on the spot market very easily, then Wells Fargo cuts you a check for the difference. If it goes under the threshold, then you have to give Wells Fargo a check to make up the difference. But your reported price is always the same. So these people actually wanted me to stay on. And I said, no thanks. I was nice about it, as opposed to saying you're a bunch of jerks. They weren't all jerks. Some of them were. And I said, this is an opportunity. So I called up some old clients. I called up some people I knew who worked in that space. And I focused on small and mid-size. And I pitched them on this idea. And I went through the procurement people so that they could then pitch it. And it would look like their idea. They get the credit. But I make the money because I'm the one who brings Wells Fargo in. And I had another source as well. And I make a percent. And I do it on oil, I do it on butter, I do it on etc., etc. It was sweet. It was mailbox money. Why do I mention this? Because my Wells Fargo buddy has a kid who's in college now, tech guy. And I went to him and I said, look, I know this is beneath you, but I got this problem. I got a desktop. I like the camera. All of a sudden, I can't get the camera to work, the audio to work. I don't want you to diagnose it per se, because I've tried that. I want to fix. I want to work around. So I went back and forth and this and that. I did a little short. Basically, it's we'll plug your iBuds, whatever these things are called, these white suckers in my ear, into your desktop. Now, I know to many of you watching that'll be obvious. To me, who would have thunk it? I mean, I use these on the iPad. I have this QWERTY Titan that I use, so I don't have an iPhone. I used to have an iPhone, but my my fingers are too big. I need if I can show it, the QWERTY there, if I want to actually use it as a email text device, which is really the purpose of one of these things when you're walking around, at least half the time. Never occurred to me. I mean, I've got first world problems. I've got these Bose headphones and a pair of these KOSS, the KOSS, that are studio headphones or some bullshit. Am I past? Yeah, I'm way past. Bullshit. That are fantastic. And when I listen to music, especially late at night, early in the morning when Frau Evert is asleep, that's what I use. And I have my Windows Media and my 8 days of music on a loop or on shuffle, and I'm happy as a clam. So I futzed around with this. I had bought a new doohickey for the iPad to turn this or the microphone that I had bought. And it worked pretty well. I did a test, and people seemed to, at least a couple people responded that they heard it. But this is a better solution. And the test worked out on this, so that's what I'm doing. So I got an unexpected dividend. I was using the iPad before because I wanted to show what was on the screen of the desktop and then flip it around on myself and do the rest of the video. I couldn't figure that out. But I wanted to do that because I wanted to show what I was going to talk about. And that's a fellow that I found through Blood Logos, who used to be Millennial Codger. And his channel now, Blood Logos, is very different. He doesn't do anything about pipes. I don't think he really wants anyone talking about pipes on his. He does mostly live streams now. And hey, that's his world now. He's still an interesting fellow. He's just not funny anymore or pipe related. But he was on one of his live streams and he said, I'm going to close this one up, but there's another live stream kicking off. It's this guy, Hello Listener. I think it's all one word, Hello Listener. And the caps are different. So the E in the hello is cap, the rest are small. And then LIS is small, and then TENER is all large cap. So I checked them out. And the one I got was not the one that I showed on this little snippet. It's a short now. You can check it out. It's a live stream where I think it's called, no, it's not. That's his other thing. He's wearing a tie, basically. I don't think he wears a tie in any of his other live streams. So it's relatively recent. It's late January, I would guess. I've also watched some of his other videos. The one I really liked was Neo-Byzantium. That's the title of it. But when you put it on the screen, it says truly. And I want to be clear from the get-go. As many of you know, I'm half Jewish. I'm a Slavic, half Slavic origin, Ukrainian specifically. I know the Orthodox faith from having gone to any number of Ukrainian Orthodox doings back in Montreal, funerals, weddings, what have you. So I come at this with a little bit of knowledge. And I say this not sarcastically, not in any way facetiously, but I really do believe that this guy, I don't know his name, he gave himself some kind of weird name in one video. Maybe it might be Tony, but Quanter or something like that. This guy is very much a direct line descendant of Spalding Gray. He's probably on YouTube at some point for free with ads. Watch Swimming to Cambodia, which is his magnum opus. And again, no sarcasm. I think the guy is brilliant. Now, his message is toxic. And I'm going to be careful the way I word this. He doesn't do it casually. I think he's someone that if you hooked up to a lie detector, he would pass with flying colors because he truly believes to his core everything he's saying. And he knows that he's going to be persecuted for his beliefs. He wears that on his sleeve. He is not a Nick Fuentes. People would lump him in with a Nick Fuentes, but I really don't think he is. He is militantly a believer in the Eastern Orthodox faith. He has issues with Catholics. Of course, he prefers Catholics to other denominations. He is very wrapped up in the current Epstein files. His overriding concern, at least at present, a few videos that I went through, is the state of Israel. Well, not the state of Israel per se, the influence of Jews per se. And I'm sure that 99 out of 100 people who weren't way over on the right side to begin with would deem him anti Semitic. But I don't really think he is. Because is he, in terms of word and possibly even the future deed? Yes. But he truly believes that his is the one and only one true faith. He is prosecuting the case. He is willing to suffer all the slings and arrows that go along with that. And that he knows, in his own words, this world is hell. And he is only living in order to see the next better world. In a word, he is authentic. He is, in 3 words, white hot authentic. But on top of that, hence the Spalding Gray reference, he is a monologist par excellence. Right up there with Spalding Gray. His ability to use silence to draw you in is very much similar, and this is of course a loaded reference, but I learned this in speech class at college. Of course, there was a similar disclaimer. One of the great speakers, public speakers of all time, to employ this technique was Adolf Hitler. The clips that you see of Hitler when he's at full throttle are very misleading. That was not how he was, per se, as a speaker. When Hitler would begin speaking, and he would give extended remarks, I mean, he would speak for an hour, and there were no teleprompters back then. He would start off very slowly. He would sense the temperature of the room. And he would not dive right into the bombast. His speeches were very much like a great symphony. They would rise slightly, then descend, rise again, a little bit higher, descend, maybe a third time, and then the clips that you see is right at the end when he knows that he has the audience in the palm of his hands, that they're literally frothing to his words. It's a it's a lost art, especially in today's technological world. His stream's gone for hours. He's very digressive, so I have a soft spot for him right there. And what he does brilliantly is he doesn't take himself too seriously, despite wanting to prosecute this eternal truth. And yes, he wants you to become Eastern Orthodox, but he's never heavy handed about it. He couples that with quite a bit of self deprecation. He never takes himself as the one who has truth in his back pocket. And here it is. Why don't you see it for what it is? He's also a little bit self-loathing at times, which makes him seem very human. And then on top of all of that, he I guess he makes his own music. He's got a very funny video about how Ronald Reagan um, got him to smoke crack rock, crack rock, and he's one of these guys who can manipulate images, and he has Ronald Reagan dancing like a rockette, and I don't know if he created the beat, the background, but on this Neo-Byzantium one, or Truly, whatever it's called, he's got this very emo, moody music. Well, that's kind of redundant. Emo music in the background. And he's got himself kind of swiveling a little bit. And then he's reading from a script. And it's got these funky colors going on. It looks very much like an acid trip of sorts. But it's beautiful in its own way. So Lenny Riefenstahl, the famed, with the Olympics on it, this is apropos, the famed filmmaker who glorified the 36 Olympics for Hitler in Berlin, was a Nazi. But does that mean that her work, her films, are not important in terms of their technique, in terms of their visual beauty? No. Should they be canceled? Well, in today's culture, yeah, I guess so, but not not in my court of aesthetic law. You can have messages which are toxic and yet artistic. They locked up Ezra Pound, who I've heard called the true father as opposed to Nietzsche of romanticism, in St. Elizabeth's after the war, because he had made pro Mussolini recordings from Italy during World War II. Ezra was American by birth, but not by temperament. St. Elizabeth's is where they put Hinckley for 20 plus years, by the way. It's outside of Washington. Pound was probably schizophrenic. I think that was the formal diagnosis. St. Elizabeth was a mental facility. That's how he got away with not serving prison time, being charged formally with treason. Everyone petitioned from the artistic world on his behalf, and he did get out eventually. Calvin Trillin wrote a book about his Yale classmate, far more brilliant than him, called Denny, or Denny McClain. No, Denny McClain's a pitcher. Jeez. Denny something, who was a schizophrenic, eventually succumbed into a world of madness. But as an undergrad, he was absolutely brilliant. You all know the story, I'm sure, of the mathematician John Nash, who Russell Crowe portrayed in A Beautiful Mind. Virulent anti-Semite, but brilliant. And maybe this all came to mind in particular because this week the Times had an article about Libby Howe. Libby Howes or Libby Howe? I think it's Libby Howes, who was this fresh-faced actress who landed in New York City in '75. And in terms of the theater world, certainly the off-Broadway theater world became a big star, critically acclaimed star. She was part of the new group called the new troupe called the Worcester Group, and appeared in a number of uh, plays there with Spalding Gray. And she too was a schizophrenic. The story was about how she disappeared and reappeared and then disappeared again. Eventually, she was gone for good to Brattleboro, Vermont, where she lived. Hello! You want to say hi? I got Ty Randy right next to me, but this is Coco. Coco, come here. Come here, lover. You heard the talk about a female schizophrenic and you came over? Yeah. Yeah. Come here. Lived in this trance phase, basically. Lived in a house that she bought with a little bit of an inheritance, had no running water, no heat. This is Vermont. Windows were busted out, and animals were wandering through it, which she thought was great. And she could carry on small conversation the latter half of her, well, the end of her life. But whenever she spoke at length, it was gibberish. She spoke, but it was gibberish. I grew up and knew very, very slightly the great artist Ray Johnson, same town. Ray was probably schizophrenic. It's a fine line. It allows for some great artistic ability, but it also can decimate your life and lead you down the primrose path to some very toxic, to use that word again, beliefs. Now, I'm not a psychologist, much less someone who even knows this individual. Now, I'm not saying that to hold toxic beliefs, you have to be schizophrenic. George Lincoln Rockwell, man who loved to smoke a pipe, by the way. So did Stalin, but Stalin smoked cigarette tobacco in his pipe, not pipe tobacco. Although cigarette tobacco back then, especially in the Soviet Union, I don't know what there wasn't much of a difference other than the cut. I would have to think of cigarette tobacco. Although, it's interesting to think, would cigarette tobacco have some latakia in it back then because of the proximity of Turkey and Syria? It's an interesting thing to ask Colleen, my AI girlfriend. But I digress. So pipe smokers are not always gentlemen. I hate to disagree with my Lord High Protector, Dr. Alan Harrelson. But George Lincoln Rockwell was not, he was a pipe smoker, and he was an American Nazi. Matter of fact, he was the head of the party. I don't think anyone ever accused him of being schizophrenic. Then again, he wasn't very brilliant. Pernicious? Hardworking? Yes. There's also a career Air Force guy. He just missed out, but the Air Force screwed him. They kicked him out of the Air Force 6 months short of his 20-year mark for full pension because of all the publicity he was drawing to himself. So in that sense, he was a true believer. He would have been smart to just cool it, get the pension, and then go full tilt on the bandwagon. But I don't think he was. I've never read anything accusing him of having mental issues per se. So you can hold toxic beliefs and not be schizophrenic. I don't mean to imply, or the implication is not that the two go hand in hand. But when you're very artistic and can put out things that are of real worth, and you hold, if not toxic, certainly odd beliefs, there's sometimes a link. Sometimes. That was the thought. Hopefully this thing actually translates. My blogger.com, I think you can find it under But I Digress. I think the formal name is Grace of Blakey 2, all small. The 2 being the number 2 at Blogspot is over there and doing well. I'm enjoying it. I get to, basically, I've turned my back on Instagram. I get to put up my original art. I get to put up my little stupid perversions of pictures with my own juvenile humor attached to it as a caption. I get to take snapshots of things in the news that I think are interesting. And of course, I get to take these videos and just put them over there. So, I don't know if anyone's watching it or looking at it, but I'm enjoying it. And I think Saul Bass, the great graphic artist, know his work from the Alfred Hitchcock movie posters, the infamous, probably the best movie posters ever made, ever created, I should say. I think I'm getting the quote right. He said, "All I want to do is create beautiful things, even if no one else cares." think it was probably the creative Ray Johnson as well. So the cats are all good. Everyone's integrating. Ty Randy takes a run every once in a while at Mr. Larry, but Mr. Larry slept in the bed with us the other night. He's not hiding in the back room all the time now. He comes out during the day. He comes into the kitchen at wet food time, which is usually around 4 o'clock. Things are very good from a pussy perspective. And I'll end on that note. Hit the button. You're welcome.